And welcome back. As we mentioned prior to the commercial break, we are now joined by our good friends from the United States Embassy, and we have a team of three, Marlene, who are going to be discussing archaeology in the community. We have Dr. Alexandra Jones. Good morning. She's an archaeologist. We also have Dr. Andrew Cohen. He's an expert in cultural heritage. And of course, we have Dr. Allan Moore, an associate director at the Institute of Archaeology here in Belize. Good morning.
Good morning. Of course, we're talking about the Archaeology in the Community project. And luckily, we've had you all on before talking about the overview of the project. Now, I just want to do a little bit of a recap for viewers who are just tuning in as to where this partnership between the U.S. Embassy and the Archaeology Department first got started, and why take it into the schools. Who wants to start?
Okay, first I'd like to thank you for having us on the show. Thank the U.S. Embassy and the government of Belize for having such a wonderful collaboration. This wouldn't have been possible without their input. But really to go back to where this started, Dr. Cohen is an archaeologist also. Belize saw the need, both Belize and the U.S. saw the need for Belize to further protect its cultural heritage. So we worked on a bilateral agreement between the United States and Belize in formulating a memorandum of understanding in how we go about how each country could help each other in protecting their cultural heritage and their patrimony. So we signed that memorandum in February of 2013, and that is about to be re-signed, re-evaluated, and that's why Dr. Cohen is here. So we're doing the legwork for that. But while that was in tandem with that, we had what we call a community archaeology project, in which Dr. Alexandra Jones has been here for 2 years now. We do rural communities. We've done PG, we've done Benque, we've done San Ignacio, we've done San Antonio, we've done Belize City. And the idea, and I won't take away from what Dr. Jones might want to say, but it's to get school involved. Start from scratch, if you want to say. Start from the young people for them to appreciate their cultural heritage, so that by the time they get adult, it's an easier job on us.
And it's demystifying the profession of becoming a professional in archaeology. And I want to jump in directly to your experience working. You've seen more of Belize than many other Belizeans in all these rural areas.
Yes, I have.
And it's interesting because some of the locations you talked about, some of the children have Maya mounds in their backyards. You know, the Mayan sites are down the road. So some are very close to the areas. Belize City children may go on a trip once a year. Tell me about the experience and how it differed in the different areas.
Well, one, it's been unique and different. I mean, and this is with just not in Belize, with anywhere you go. Everybody's exposure to education is different and varies. The one thing I will say that's constant is the excitement about the program. Everybody's excited to meet archaeologists. It's very interesting to see how much they already know about their past and how excited they are to kind of talk about it, you know, in depth and in a different way than they've been taught. So mostly it's through history, but to now add that science and math component along with it, and which are all things that make up what archaeology is, takes it to a new level. And just kind of going and letting them know that you have people who are outside the country who value and find your heritage and history very important. And so, you know, kind of pulling that all together to say that, you know, just as much as Belize people find what you have going on important, just as much as you appreciate it, so do other people. So how can we all work together in order to save it and to preserve it? So it's quite interesting. I mean, from region to region to just see the excitement and how much kids are really into this.
Now, it is a very hands-on approach, and I think by nature children will love that. They get to play in sand and discover new things. Is there a difference between the interest, the experience of the children who were closer to the sites versus those who were in more urban areas?
No. I mean, the excitement level is the same across the board for all. It's the idea of discovering new. So even though we're talking about things that you also understand, it's the idea that we're constantly discovering and we're constantly learning new things. And I think that's the one thing that appeals to all of the kids. It's just that, oh, wait, we can go and we can partner with niche and go out and excavate. So I can actually do that, and making it tangible and letting them know that this is something you realistically can learn about and participate in. So it's not this far off concept of I have this monument down the street or just in my backyard, but that I too can be a scientist and contribute to the heritage of Belize.
What are some of the challenges in terms of being able to simplify this entire concept for kids at the primary level?
I think because I've been doing this for so many years. And I'm going
You're actually communicating that.
Right, yeah. At 10 years now, I've kind of mastered it. I'm taking these high-level concepts and simplifying it, such as context, and explaining to them what context is, and then breaking it all the way down to something as simple as all my kids now can say, toothpaste, toilet paper, washcloth, soap. When you put all these together, what room or what space do you think? And they're like, oh, that's context. So just understanding, taking little objects, and this is how archaeologists almost get detective. And so putting it into things that they find, equally as cool. So now we're detectives of the past, and this is how we do it. Really breaks it down for them so that they can understand it.
See, it sounds fun. I want to do a class now.
And the aspect of the importance of cultural heritage, Dr. Cohen?
Well, see, as Dr. Jones was saying, the combination of objects that archaeologists find when they're excavating, that's something that we want to preserve, because without it, you can't create a scientific understanding of the past. And so unfortunately, looters go to sites all over the world, not just in Belize, but they go to sites and they conduct illegal digs, and they remove the objects from their contexts, and they take them and they put them in, they offer them for sale in the international art market. And so the agreement that the US and Belize signed in 2013 aims to really prevent that kind of activity.
Yeah. And that is, of course, just to be able to touch on that once again, is being able to detect whether or not you have to source where your artifacts are from. You can't, if it's found in the U.S., you have contacts in Belize, you find out if it's sourced from Belize. Let's talk about that and the laws that go along with it as well.
Well, to add to what Dr. Cohen was saying, you do have the protection laws in Belize. Once stuff are being illegally taken out, not under the scientific excuse, then they become marketable in the United States. Once they're marketable, I gather the U.S. has agreement with other Central American countries as well. But in Belize, we'd have to identify those objects. And then if they're sourced, most of the time people will, whoever is being caught would say, well, I got this in Placencia, or I got this in Hopkins, and then you can source this. And then once they've shown the object to us, then we can say, that looks like Northern Belize, that looks like Southern Belize. They're hallmarks. They're little giveaways in types and style of objects. So, and then the other step to that would be to contact the counterpart agency, the U.S., the State Department, the Embassy of Belize in Belmopan, and then we turn them back to the country of origin, which would be Belize. We do have, as we speak, a number of lithic pieces. They are flint points that should be in the process of being returned to the embassy and then back to the government of Belize niche.
So for instance, if one were to find a piece of jade artifact, for instance, and it's the result of an illegal dig. It is sold off or it's shipped off to someone in the United States, and that person is found in possession of this artifact. Then this would be the process that needs to be followed in terms of returning this object back to the country. But is there a fine or a penalty for for being found in possession of this item illegally in the United States? Do you know?
No, there's not. The our immigration and customs enforcement agents are, because of the agreement that we have, they're able to seize the object and then to return it with minimal formalities to the government of Belize. Oftentimes the people who are engaged in this activity are committing crimes, they're smuggling, or they're committing fraud, or they're selling other stolen property. So they might be charged with some kind of crime. But the essence is to get the cultural property back to its country of origin.
It's like the Elgin marble in London that
Yeah.
needs to go back to Greece. But further to that, I would say that in a number of cases, what you would find is whenever there were looted or illegal possession of artifacts, and then most cases you'd find other stuff with it, maybe drugs. Why? Because while your harvest is not ready, while your crop of marijuana might be growing, you're just sitting around watching it. So why not go dig, right? So when you dig, it's double the bonanza. So you have artifacts and you have drug for a good shipment, and that's why this type of bilateral agreement is necessary. That's why this type of community service is very, very important, because we're teaching people from the onset to protect what they have.
Precisely.
The tour guides want to know that they have a job tomorrow, so they will try to protect that mug because they bring tourists to see that mug. And if you take that mug, he might squeal on you because you need to eat, or he needs to eat.
It affects your livelihood.
Right.
I think definitely what you pointed out was looking at the impact of working with children from a very young age and understanding, one, the work that goes into recovering artifacts, but two, the importance and significance of keeping them in country and preserved. In your experience in having this discussion with the children, how easy is it to make that connection in terms of being able to recognize there's a science in finding the artifacts, but what these mean?
Well, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the lecture. The way the program is set up, we explain what archaeology is, the types of it. We then bring it back home. We have partnered with Niche, so Niche explains what they do, the issue with and the situation with unique permits, and kind of explaining all of that so that we're letting you know kind of the legal aspect of it. If you see somebody destroying something, you call the police immediately. If you see somebody doing, you contact the police. So it's kind of creating this loop with the children between archaeologists, law enforcement, and the community, saying that it takes all of us to do this. And then once we actually go into the process of doing archaeology, we explain, like, we have to take notes. We have to do, and I stress to them, we're the only science that destroys everything. So if somebody goes out and just takes things without knowing what they're doing or writing it down, you've just stolen history from everyone. So kind of explaining that to kids, and then also adding the police component and throwing in, you know, there are fines. You get in trouble for this. You don't want to go to jail. So kind of also throwing that consequences into it, puts that all out there, but then bringing it right back home and saying, but you want your kids to see this when they're your age, correct? And them being able to relate to that as kids, like, I like going to these sites, I like seeing this. So it kind of brings it full circle and makes it very holistic in the program for them to understand the importance of heritage preservation, but my role as a kid in heritage preservation.
What were your specific objectives in the project, and have you been able to meet them?
Specific is just informing as many kids as possible about it.
So it was reach.
Yes.
Yeah.
This go around we did 222 kids in the course of 1 week. And so if you think about how many districts we've reached, that's pretty amazing for 1 week of programming, you know, and partnering with Niche as close as we have been, we're able to reach these high goals. So you're talking within 2 years, that's a large number. And the idea, though, is to take it a little bit older. You were getting the babies. Of course, it's always cool when you're a child, but getting older kids, high school. The last go round, we were able to work with high school kids, you know, to make sure that you don't forget. It's not just a fun day in middle school, but it's something that's drilled in so that once you're almost to that age of voting and getting a job and going out, that it's still stuck with you and you now become concerned citizens as well.
Do you do any work with teachers in terms of how to keep on reinforcing the message as they continue with science or math or history?
So personally, yes, that's actually something we just talked about this past week, is possibly looking at teacher programming, because this also hugely supports what we do if we can also train teachers to actually do this and incorporate it in your curriculum. And we have noticed there are a few readers in the countries that have sections on archaeology. So there are some teachers who are already, you know, base level starting, at least introducing, but the idea of kind of moving forward to create these ambassadors that can do the program.
Now, as an archaeologist and having been to a great many of the sites that Belize has, are there any unique places you've been that you've been able to relay some of what you've experienced out there to those in the classroom?
Yes. So one of the wonderful things about this program is as we travel, my wonderful partners always take me to a site. So it makes it easier when I'm talking to the kids to just be like, so, you know, little things like, would you go to Calpech and lift it up and bring it home? You know, the kids are like, but being able to know what sites are in each region and what sites kids go to or drive by or walk by really helps with me. Because again, the concept is archaeology in the community. It's not archaeology as a whole. We want to make it real. We want to make it tangible for them to be able to understand what we're talking about and what we're participating in. So it really does make an impact on them.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Cohen, let's look at what you want to build on from this point forward. It's an interesting time. You recently had your discovery at San Antonich. I know that there is continuous excavation that goes on. We have school groups coming in. We have Belizeans who are studying archaeology at Galen. So there is a lot of activity that takes place, not always that the public knows. So looking forward and the specific relationship you have with Belize, what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing now?
I would say that one of the things that one of the avenues that we have to build a closer collaboration is in the area of heritage preservation, because Belize has so many archaeological sites. I mean, there may be more ancient archaeological buildings than there are contemporary ones, for that matter. Something I just learned yesterday. And so, in order for these sites to be protected, then one needs to know where they are.
Yeah.
So having it's important, I think, to have a national inventory or a map. Having and then the sites where you want tourists to come, they need certain infrastructure, and so we have a program through the embassy called the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, where our ambassador gets to select a project to help preserve a site, a collection, maybe a traditional form of expression, and through that program, we can say create ramps or allow access to a site with trails, or make sure that a collection is presented in a way that's informative and attractive.
Yeah.
I must say that Belize has enjoyed the Ambassador's Grant program over the last 4 or 5 years. We've been getting awards from the U.S. Embassy, and towards cultural improvement, we just done the Benke site. There's a little site in Benke, right smack in the town. And we've done various other development and consolidation efforts at site. This year, unfortunately, and we've been, Ms. Nutella from the embassy has been giving us a little whip, say, why you guys didn't apply for this year? You know, I said, well, we're trying to be the good guys, give somebody else a break. No, you should apply. So next year, I promise her that we will apply, and we should be able to tap into the ambassador funds once more.
How has this partnership been beneficial for you guys from the local perspective?
Oh, from the national perspective,
yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, what more could you ask for? Somebody policing, helping you to police, asking you to help preserve your own culture, your own heritage. What more could you ask for, right? So we just have to abide by some of the conditions. And like I told Dr. Cohen, it's a supply and demand. If the United States doesn't have the demand, we wouldn't be supplying it. It's like drugs, right? So you help us, we help you, and we'll have our cultural heritage for in perpetuity.
Well, I think, Dr. Cohen, you touched on something very interesting, and I wanted to get your perspective on it collectively as archaeologists. The issue of having sites and sharing sites. We obviously have a number of tourists who come into the country. When we were growing up, we were given a list of sites. That's what exists, and that's what we thought it was. And obviously now with more exposure, we know that it continues to grow. But in terms of determining how much exposure a site should get, what type of access people should have, it seems to be I guess an area that there's a lot of sensitivity, but at the same time, you want to share history and you want to share culture. So how do you find the right balance between that?
Well, I go back to Dr. Cohen's comment earlier when he says, you know, we want to find these sites, we want to map them, we want to put them on the map.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is not public knowledge, although we'd love the public to know that Belize has 2,000 archaeological sites, but it is in
2,000, but not all excavated, right?
No.
Okay, yeah,
We only have,
they're all in the,
we only have
yeah,
very little,
exactly.
very little. You
But
know?
we're at,
We get what, 20 foreign projects per year,
yeah.
digging at different sites, and one site might have a periphery of 20 kilometers. Caracol has a reserve of 25,000 kilometers, right? So you can fathom that kind of concept, but we can't let everybody know where everything is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have more gray hair than I do now, because we can't police it.
Yeah.
And this is why projects like these are important again, because you start helping, the children will help us to police it.
Yeah.
The stakeholders, the tour guides, the tour operators, the hotelier, the Belican maker, everything snowballs. You know, the more people you get, the more people you can teach, yes, but the more the economy will go. So when you ask about, you know, how
do you find the right
how do you
balance?
find the right place? When we do want to expand, we look at the national development plan of the country. We know, for example, Dangriga doesn't have a flag archaeological site right now. We need one in there. We need to inject some archaeological economic activity in there, some stimulus, right? Up north, we can do it with a bit more. Cayo has been booming, but they don't have an industry. Their industry is tourism. The citrus is gone in, the chicle is gone in, the cattle is gone in. So, not to say that they don't have, they do, but their flagship is tourism, right? The northern flagship is sugarcane. So, and we have to look at the national development strategy and see where we can inject stimulus.
Okay. And in terms, you were saying before as well about signing on to a new agreement, looking at possibilities of expanding to teachers. What are some of the other emerging areas that you've identified that you would like to progress in?
Like I said, we'd love to have the entire populace of Belize educated about their cultural preservation and cultural heritage. But I think a step at a time, if we were to go a step at a time, I think should the project continue next year, we will be targeting some of the northern district, the kids, because we haven't been, they've
Yeah, you went
left
southwest and the city.
the city. So I think the teachers are another target group, and stakeholders in terms of tour guides, tour operators. You know, when they appreciate it more, they help us because they don't want anything to happen to a site. Otherwise, they won't make money. So you know, if they look out for we look out for them, and this type of relationship, symbiotic. You depend on me, I depend on you, and that's the way I think we can go forward.
And for you, Dr. Jones, tell me what seems to be the lesson that the children grasp the most after you've completed your work with them.
I think our heritage is important. Our shared heritage, our heritage belongs to all of us equally, and that archaeology is important, and it lends to us understanding our shared heritage. I think that's the lesson that most of them come out with by the time it's all done. Oh, and then archaeology is fun.
My next question was going to be, are we ready for the boom of new archaeologists that will come? Yeah, and gladly there are opportunities. They get the exposure in primary school, as I said. It is something that they can do here, and of course access in other parts of the world. Okay, anything else you guys would like to share before we wrap up?
Well, I would, really like to thank you for having us. The agreement, it's supposed to discourage people from looting sites, because they'll know that any antiquities that they take out of them aren't going to be sellable. But in order for that logic to work, it's based on awareness, and so having us here today really helps. Okay. And I also wanted to say that the embassy, this is part of a broader, the agreement and many of our other activities, like bringing Dr. Jones here, are all part of creating a stronger and better partnership between our countries.
Okay, and the next time you're here, you have to bring, I see sandboxes and sieves, and we're kids at heart too. We can try something out next time. Thank you so much for being here.
I just want to say thanks to you guys for having us again. Thanks to the embassy for sharing such a very good partnership in this, collaborating in this effort for the community archaeology. Special thanks to Ms. Natella, who is the public relations specialist at the embassy. We've been working day and night in trying to get this tweaked properly and executed. So thank you guys.
All right, we appreciate you being here, and I'm very sure that those who have been involved in the project are very grateful for the contribution you've made, and hopefully the fruits of your labor, which is merely having people put together the work that goes in and the importance and value of these finds in our larger community and our cultural history, that message will stay with them. Thank you. We're going to go ahead now and take our break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about foster care and adoption in Belize, and find out why you should be a part of the Give Your Heart to a Child campaign. Stay tuned.